I get the first deal that really clued me in this was a viable opportunity was when I had purchased about 70 Nextel flip phones. And, let's say I bought the phones for, $20. I mean, I sold them all for $80 in like a week and a half. So I was like, well, I should just buy more phones.
Caution, you will begin to love your 9-to-5 with this show. Join us as we explore and discover your unique strengths and learn to apply them to your daily business activities with your host, Shmuel Septimus.
Welcome to this next episode of the Love Your 9-to-5 show. My guest today is Brian Burke. Brian is the president and CEO of SellYourMac.com. And we will hear more about that. Brian, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk to your listeners and describe how I've moved from some things I did not love as much to loving my 9-to-5.
Awesome. Well, we really want to hear all about that. But before we even go into how your journey and what you're doing currently, can you give us, just for our listeners who don't know you, and for me, we only spoke for a couple of minutes, can you tell us a little bit about who you are personally and then kind of how you evolved professionally?
Sure. I've grown up in Cincinnati, Ohio my whole life. I went to college down at Tulane in New Orleans. And that's kind of where I started really doing the eBay business. That's kind of got me to where I am. So it's really that dabbling in the job during my college years, not even knowing it would turn into something full-time that I would love in the future, that kind of sparked that path for me. And, from college, I came back home and I was trying to get a job in banking, investment banking and stock trading and stuff like that. And it didn't work out right away. So I went back to something that I knew, which was that eBay business. And at first I was, buying and selling people's junk, which is not that exciting, literally cleaning out storage lockers and stuff like that. And then quickly after that, I transitioned to buying and selling cell phones. These are a little bit more exciting, but still not my true passion. So a couple years after that, I finally started getting into what I loved, Apple products. And that is where I truly found something that would make me happy and get me out of bed every day.
So that is awesome. And that was really brief and full. So really, thank you. You really couldn't have answered the question in a more complete way. There's something very interesting there. So you started out immediately, you went to eBay. And you were dabbling there a little bit. And ultimately, that was the right place for you, maybe with a few minor adjustments. What pushed you or pulled you into eBay to begin with? And the follow-up question.
I've done eBay a long time. I did it starting in high school, doing some Audi car part sales. And I was pretty familiar with the Audis back then. And I could find some arbitrage opportunities, buying and selling between eBay and some of these Audi forum user groups. So I just had built my acumen up there. And then in college, my friends wanted me to sell their stuff on commission for them. So I said, sure, why not? If they want to, sell their goods and give me 35% cut, I'm all for it. I've never been one to shy away from doing some work and making some money. So that's kind of where the bread and butter of it got started. So
your average high school kid knows nothing about Audi parts and is not dabbling in buying and selling stuff online. So obviously you have an edge up with that. And what we see time and time again is things that people think are normal and they take for granted it's really something that's unique that you can do well, that other people don't realize it. But because it comes naturally to you, you didn't realize perhaps, that this is something that you really excel at. So you're like, it seems like from your response that it's almost like, why wouldn't you do this yourself? Why are you giving me a free 35%? For selling your stuff? It's your stuff. I'm not paying you for it, but if you're going to give me free money, I'll take it. And obviously it's not free. Obviously it's work. And obviously, you mentioned so casually about finding the forums. It's work finding where the buyers are online and actually selling to them and servicing the sales, so to speak, and making sure that
when you love it, it doesn't seem like work though. So that's the thing. So I had a passion for Audi cars at the time. My first car was a 1989 Audi Quattro, which is like the A8 back then. So, I learned a lot about them, and I like finding ways to make money, to be able to, do fun projects on my own and stuff like that. So I'm always looking for those, kind of arbitrage sales opportunities in life. So that's why I thought it was easy, because I saw it as a way to help, support myself.
Got it. So, but it seems like it's a combination of two things. It's the it's your passion for the Audi combined with your ability or skill or maybe passion of using the internet to connect products with buyers and sellers, I guess, because you have to buy
Sure.
stuff from places. Now, you said you came back and you were first trying to find a job in the finance world. Why would you do
Yeah. I mean, I got a degree in finance and management, so I figured put my degree to work. And I had been trading stocks ever since my bar mitzvah at my ripe young age of 13. And I'd done really well trading stocks. So I figured that
really?
was a good path to go into. I kind of always admired Jim Cramer and his work ethic and his ability to be an amazing trader. People don't realize to be an awesome trader, you only need to win about 55% of the time. So the 45% you're losing, but you just lose less per trade than your wins. So people have this idea in their head that you always have to win at something, and in your stock trader you don't win basically a little bit more than half, and you're doing pretty well for yourself.
So okay, so you have quite an early start over here, but you're doing stocks, you're taking your bar mitzvah money and you're investing it
Yeah.
on the stock market. You're trading, you're doing well. You go to college for that. You come back and you want to get a job in that, which is the normal path, and then something doesn't click. Well, what happened there?
It was a little bit tough getting a job right then. It was Hurricane Katrina actually had hit my school right before my senior year. So we all got displaced, and I went up to Boston University, kind of up where you are,
Yep.
For a semester. And the only privilege I didn't have as a full-time student was meeting the recruiters on campus. And I lobbied the president of the university, and he still wouldn't let me do it. And then we all went back to school at Tulane in New Orleans for the second semester at the end of our senior year, and no recruiter came down to visit because it was a kind of a scary time. It was under technically military control in the city, and there was, armed forces in every major corner and stuff like that.
Wow.
So no one came down to interview. So I felt like those opportunities weren't really in front of me. And I was applying online and stuff like that. But as you know, without any major connection in that field, applying online is really tough to do. And I had some great interviews up there in the summer after school, and ultimately just didn't get the job. So I wasn't one to wait around and find the job. I didn't want to not work for 6 months or something like that. And when I started buying, selling stuff, at home, I had just some immediate big wins. So I was like, well, why would I work anywhere else? I should work for myself.
So tell us about that.
I get the first deal that really clued me in. This was a viable opportunity. Was when I had purchased about 70 Nextel flip phones, these old school, walkie-talkie flip phones.
Bleep, bleep.
And yeah, exactly. And let's say I bought the phones for $20. I mean, I sold them all for $80 in like a week and a half.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I should just buy more phones.
So how did you market those? You just put them on eBay and they
put them on eBay. eBay kind of sells itself. I mean, it has to be priced right. Obviously, you can't overprice the market. But if you go with market pricing, there's 500 million eyeballs on eBay. So it's a great marketplace to sell used equipment.
If so, but so I guess the bigger trick is how to get them for $20 if they're really worth $80.
It's kind of the same way I was able to get my friend's stuff in college. People don't want to take the time and the hassle to sell it themselves. So it's a service, and there is a profit to be made. And I would take a phone. I'd have to, do all the due diligence and the work to wipe it and reload it. Then I would buy, car chargers and home chargers and cases. So I would have a nice little bundle together. I'd give everyone a warranty. So it's kind of that full service that I, gave it new life, and also, gave it a warranty and some accessories.
Mm-hmm. How do you honor that warranty?
If anyone ever has a problem, I just give them their money back. Now on eBay, it's very streamlined process for returns. You basically click a couple buttons and you started the return process, and we'll just take it back and give you your money back. No questions asked.
Really?
We're great to our customers. We're 100% positive, and you're not going to keep that rating if you're hassling your customers about returns.
Wow. So you have to have that. It's a different mindset. Sometimes when you're dealing with small items or used items, first of all, you're dealing with a different clientele. Right? When you go if you work at an Apple store, let's say, and you're selling Macs to spoiled kids coming to college who are going to use it for a year and then upgrade, they're going to be less concerned about the return policy than if you're buying someone who's really scraping dollar to dollar looking for a good deal on eBay, comparing
sure.
50 products that are all the exact same thing, same shipping item, and they're going to compare you based on your, maybe on your, on your rating or whatever it is, the small differences. So do you get frequent returns?
Right now, we see a single-digit return rate, which is right now we're about half of the industry average for electronics.
Well,
And that number is looking at brand new items. There is no good data that I've seen around used returns from any of these large companies. So I'm really proud of that. I mean, if we're half the return rate of new product and we're selling used product, I mean, we're doing a heck of a great job describing these things in detail. And like you mentioned, a lot of it's the rating. I mean, our being 100% across the board, it's a lot of buyer confidence.
so as an online purchaser, as probably every member of this country or maybe the world might be, we know that, let's say I'm buying a Mac from you. I know that I'm not a Mac professional, and I don't know all the ins and outs, and I don't care to learn the ins and outs. My goal is to have a Mac on my desk now that works, get the best price for it, and never have to
That's
think
Apple's
about
motto. It just works.
Oh, that is your motto?
That's Apple's motto.
Oh, Apple's motto.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I want. Honestly, I switched last year. It's a year and a half now from Windows laptop to a Mac, and I'm never looking back.
Better experience. Hey, you are due for an upgrade though. You told me how dated your Mac is. I'd love to help out, but I know it's not going to be offering much cash back at this point.
Exactly. And it's working. You know what? That's part of the problem. If you make a good product, in order to get me to want to upgrade, it has to not work. With Windows, I didn't have that problem. Even if I bought the same price.
Breaks first year if you buy a Windows computer.
I bought $1,000 laptop, and then a year later, the thing is dead. It's taking forever to load. So, anyways, the point is
to that point, Apple said that they are really trying to make sure devices last for as long as possible. That's something Tim Cook made a big point on his Apple keynote yesterday during the iPhone announcement. And I think that generally people don't feel that way. They feel that, they make products to, not work or break after the warranty ends or the iOS is updated. But truly, that's not the case. I mean, things happen, batteries go bad and the phones wear out and get too much storage and they get slow. But they are making products that last an incredibly long time.
I mean, compared to other, other products in the industry, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
With my phone, I still go back and forth. But again, let's just getting back between Android and iPhone. I hope you're not offended by that.
We can barely be friends, but hopefully you're on iPhone right now.
Right now, I have my iPhone.
Whew, we're good. We're good.
Right now, I'm in the iPhone stage, and especially with the Mac, it really works well together. So
absolutely, it's all about the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's true.
You haven't watched yet?
Okay, that's a different conversation. I had it. I had the first one, and now I sold it on eBay. It's from the few things I sold on eBay. And I bought a Pebble, which is almost no longer existent. Are you familiar with the Pebble?
Yeah, I bought one. It was pre-Apple Watch, but no longer supported.
Right, so it's no longer supported. So, but the reason why I didn't like the Apple Watch, okay, we're going off, but this is not a bad conversation anyway. The reason why I got the first version, which was okay. The problem was I really wanted a watch. I wanted a watch with notifications that I choose. Now, in general, I hate notifications. I don't like when you call me. I don't like when you text me unless I want to hear from you. So I shut off most of my notifications. I didn't care to do my mobile banking on my watch. That's not something I cared for. I didn't care to even use my watch as a phone because it didn't really work very well in the car. I tried it.
Yeah.
It could be it improved since then. But to me, the biggest thing was it was barely a watch because it wasn't on. It didn't look like a watch. Didn't feel like a watch. So I bought the Pebble Round, which looks and feels exactly like a watch. It works. It barely needs to be charged. You can do it every 2-3 days. I mean, they claim 7 days. I don't know did you have that one?
I did. I think I got about half a week out of it as well.
Yeah, so it really, really works well. Yeah. So like if you forget to charge it one night, not a big deal. It takes 20 minutes to charge, half hour max. It's really charged. And
we're finally at a point where the battery life is not a major concern on a newer watch. You can use it a significant amount of time.
But the always on display is a huge thing for me. It's like it's on. I don't have to worry about it. So again, I love you anyway.
Hey, you gave it a shot.
Yeah,
If
I give
anyone
it a
did have
shot.
the original watch, the new Series 4 got announced. It is night and day, faster, better
So I'm
speed.
waiting for that to happen. I was, I
Connectivity.
guess, an early adopter to the Apple Watch. I was really excited about the
Yeah,
concept. I was also excited that, post Steve Jobs, there's a new product coming out. Just some renewed hope that it's not just improving what's already here. We're actually creating new products. I mean, for me, that was very exciting.
that
And
has been a general concern that there's not as much innovation at Apple.
exactly.
The real issue is a lot of it's happening behind the scenes, so we just don't know about it. I mean, the next things that are going to come out in the future, there's probably going to be these augmented reality glasses, possibly an augmented reality watch. All these things that we don't know about. The Apple Car. It's going to be an exciting future, I think.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it yet. Honestly, between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone X, how much of a significant improvement is there really? I know I've played with the iPhone X.
It's a lot about speed and camera. And so for the average person, it might not make a huge difference. But for someone like myself, I'm on my phone, 4 or 5 hours a day. And I also love photography. I'm
Right.
taking pictures of my kid, of my food, of stuff at my office, doing sorts of videos on it. So I need to have that. I need the best camera in my opinion.
I hear you. Now,
Yeah.
but the difference between the iPhone 7, when the iPhone 7 came out, everyone said it was the best camera ever, right?
Everyone is the best when it comes
Exactly.
out
So,
until the
and
next.
you can go on YouTube and watch all the comparison videos of the camera. You really, really need to be an expert, assuming that both phones are in decent condition and you
Yeah.
don't have any dirt on the lens and the same lighting conditions. The difference is minute. Of course, there's a difference, but again, we're already at the expert, at the expert level. I remember my very first cell phone that had a camera. It was a horrible
Yeah,
negative
one
one pixel.
megapixel.
Yeah,
Like
I
what
don't
is
know what it was, but just the fact that I'm holding my phone,
what
I
was it, a
see
Motorola Razor?
I was actually in Israel at the time. It was a Nokia, which was
Okay.
very big there. So I had the Nokia blue brick phones, the ones that you play Snake on. And
Yeah.
so
Oh
this
yeah.
was, oof. Oh, I think it was a Sony Ericsson.
Okay.
And first
Back
of all,
in
it
the
was a
day.
color display. That was a big deal.
Whew.
And yeah, and it
16 colors. Woo.
yeah, exactly. And then I remember my first picture. It was actually a garbage dumpster that was just there in the street. But it was just like I took a picture of the dumpster, and now I see something that kind of looks like the thing I see with my eyes, and I could send it to someone if they have data and they have multimedia messages, and they want to
You
spend
gotta pay to send photo messages back then. That's a
exactly,
hilarious concept.
exactly,
We
and
don't even
and
cross our mind about messaging.
right. So I mean, to send this ugly picture, then they'll text back, "What is that?" I'm like, "Who cares? I took it with my phone." Like, it's a real thing. Anyway, so it's come out is at that point, every new camera, like it's been evolving from there. They're like, no, this is an actual camera. But I think we're well past the point that your average smartphone camera is an awesome camera.
Yeah.
That we're now that the improvements now are like you have to be a real professional photographer or someone who's
One of the coolest features I think they just announced about the new camera on the 10s is that there's dynamic depth control. So when you take a portrait mode shot, you actually can dial up and dial down the depth perception on the photo in real time while you're editing.
while you're taking the picture or right after you take the picture?
Afterwards, you can do it.
Okay, that is
So
actually
really,
pretty cool.
yeah, it's like you're just changing the f-stop. So it's pretty neat.
The stuff that they're doing with the software and the hardware, there's no question. I'm just saying, but we're well beyond. When I take a picture of that dumpster now,
Right.
everyone's going to know exactly what it is, and everyone's going to see a rich picture. It doesn't matter
If
if
you have
I
a 7
use
or a 10,
an
I
Apple
get
phone
it.
or if I use a, God forbid, pardon
Samsung.
me, a non-Apple phone. Let's just say it that way. That there
There's
are
other
devices.
cameras out there that are great. I'm not gonna knock it. If you get a Pixel 2 or a Samsung Note 9, they take nice photos as
They
well.
do. They
Yes.
definitely do. A Pixel. See, Pixel XL2 is on my list for the next phone, but
Well, I can't recommend it, but the photos do look good.
okay. Getting back to your story, so
Sure.
you were trying out finance, it didn't work out. You kind of started to sell stuff online, and it's working. You got your big break. You're selling your next cell phones. at what point did it really explode and like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm doing. I want to do this for the rest of my life forever. And I want to open up my own company. And I see from your website, you have quite a few people working for you. You have a storefront. You have quite an impressive
Yeah.
business going. And it's interesting also to know before I even let you answer that you're an online business, which a lot of people think if you have an online business, one of the perks are that you don't need to have overhead. But
Exact opposite.
so well, you don't need to have the same type of overhead because you're gonna people talk about it, and I know people who do this actually that they have their their virtual assistants all over the place living in third world countries, paying them $3-4 an hour, and they train them and they're really good, and maybe eventually they bring them on board. But you have like a storefront, a real storefront, and you have real people that you can take a picture with.
We have 8,000 square feet here and 22 awesome team members. So yeah, we're a much growing business and there is a decent amount of overhead. So yeah, we have to, make some money on our service in order to pay our team members and keep growing.
So let's go back to the first part of the question.
Okay.
At what point was it growing to the point where this is my thing? This is awesome. I want to do this forever. What was there?
I think when I was first selling the cell phones, I knew I could do a sales on eBay type business forever. But it wasn't until I started getting into Apple products that I knew I found the products I want to deal with forever.
Okay.
So I kind of fell into a deal buying a few Macs from someone online that I could turn around and resell. And then from there, I just started doing more and more sales on eBay. And, I knew at that point that Apple was the product that was right for me and it made my customers happy. So it's kind of a win-win. So it's that great experience. It holds a great value. There is a resale opportunity. I can still sell a 5-year-old Mac. You can't sell a 5-year-old PC.
Oh, I see that. Oh, okay. That kind of all just clicked in my head.
It was it was the right product, something I loved, and that came together.
But that right, that's fascinating because of all used electronics, if you in the business of used electronics, you're absolutely right. An old PC or even an old Android phone, even a top of the line old Android phone, does not sell
Not
as well
nearly as much.
As it's like selling a used Toyota versus selling a used Ford.
Yeah.
The resale price is a different world.
Even price point aside, I worry about the customer experience and that our business is so great because of our customers. And, it's an evolving cycle. We get all these amazing ratings. We keep growing, kind of stuff like that. But if I was selling a product that didn't have a good experience, then I don't think people would return it. They wouldn't be happy.
Even if even if it's just a product that you're selling, it's not the service. But
right, it's not my fault. But yeah, they hate their Samsung 4 and they return it. So
and no one would hate their Mac, right?
Not many. It's few and far between. I tell you what.
And the earbuds that you're using right now, those are not Samsung earbuds, right?
No, these are the regular Apple earbuds. I normally wear my AirPods, but just to make sure it sounds really nice and connected on this podcast, I thought I'd go into the ear.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
I would never wear these on the phone. Actually, my iPhone 10 doesn't even have a slot to plug them in.
that is really cool. Now, is there any particular incident which shows or which was like a pivotal moment for you where it's like, wow, this is completely awesome, and this like you were able to look back and say, wow, I made it. Like, you told me about your earlier stage where you were selling some, you got your hands on a few Macs, you were able to resell them and turn them around, and it started turning profitable, and you saw that you might be able to make a real business out of it. But was there a particular moment where something happened in your business at sellyourmac.com where you said, wow, this is real? Was it your first hire? Was it, I don't know, your storefront? Was there a particular big deal? Was it a certain thank you note that you got? Was there such an event? And if there wasn't, was there a certain failure which happened, which you were able to grow from tremendously? I'll take either or.
I would say it's probably a series of events. You mentioned hiring the first employee, having people to help me out to be able to, truly achieve my goals. That was a big turning point. But that wasn't really the one that made the jump for me. One of the ones that stands out is I did a very large deal with a supplier and now a close friend. And that was, the largest deal we had done to date. I had to borrow money in order to make the purchase because it was so large. And that kind of stemmed a whole nother growth spurt for us from there. So when we had these Macs arriving, we were currently working out of my basement, and we had about 12 pallets that came in. And apparently my neighbors weren't too happy. And at the time, I had about 5 team members at my house working. And the rule in the town I was living at the time was only one employee at your house, which I didn't really think much about. We weren't causing any disturbances or any issues. And one of my neighbors, I think the man who lived across the street from me, had called the city and told them that I had multiple team members at my house. And it was I think he got really upset about these large deliveries that happened a couple of days in a row with these pallets. That was the kind of trigger for him. So right after that, I just got all this equipment in. I got a cease and desist from the city.
Wow.
And they said, you have 2 weeks to get out, or, tell the team members to leave. So obviously I'm keeping my team, keeping the business going. So I had to go find another location. And it was probably that first warehouse that I was like, oh my God, now it is a legitimate business. We are out, we have our own space, we have a storefront, I can give customers my address, that type of scenario. Versus, before, when we're at our house and I'm meeting customers at Starbucks and stuff like that, I don't want people coming in knowing where I live. So that was a major turning point. We got our own space. That one was like about 2,500 square feet, and I had about 5 team members at the time. So that was a very exciting time for Cellular Mac.
Wow. So many things came together there at the same time.
It was really crazy.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like that. You're borrowing from Uncle Billy to try to pay for this massive deal. You have these pallets pulling up, and neighbor Steve is, calling the city on you.
How'd you know his name was Steve? That is really funny. His name was Steve.
Oh, really? Just out of the hat. It's that type of person.
But it was not Uncle Billy.
Not Uncle Billy. All right, fair enough. Yeah. But the point is, you have the stress of paying back. You have this pallets of Macs coming in. I mean, this is not a small order. It took
up a 2-car garage. I mean, it was 100% full. It was crazy.
Wow. So that's a tremendous amount of merchandise. Yeah. And obviously, you have also the stress of making sure you could actually move this all along. Which, if everything works out, I'm sure you did very well for yourself there, but you also have in the back of your mind, what happens if?
The growth to me is always a good problem to have. I've never shied away from growth and the stress of growing. And at that point, it actually was kind of good that we got kicked out, because, we were running into issues of, shuttling computers up and down to the basement. Obviously, it wasn't very ideal anymore, and not having good storage space and stuff like that. So a lot of these things, maybe it was meant to be. The timing was right. We got at a time where we hit another huge growth spurt.
Wow. That is absolutely awesome. Now, looking back at your career so far and the trajectory of your professional life so far, for someone who's listening, let's talk to our listeners directly for a moment.
Sure.
And they're in a job that maybe they've achieved a level of success, but at the same time, they're not content in what they're doing, and they know that there's so much more inside of them that wants to be expressed, and there's so much more inside of them that they know they could achieve much higher levels of success. And it's not all about the money, and there are people like that still. They just feel like there's a lack of balance or congruence, if that's a word, with who they are and what they're doing. So you've struggled with this to some extent, because you've majored for one thing, and now you've majored in something completely different. Just kind of by allowing
I have my Apple degree now.
Exactly. You have your Apple degree, and some people actually like Apple. Okay, we'll leave that for another time. But the point is that you've kind of you've followed your natural personality and to express itself, where, instead of fighting it, in other words, someone else or many people, what they are doing is they're saying, I have a degree in this, I've invested so much in finance, and the opportunities are not here. I'm going to go to this place, that place, the other place. I'm going to kind of force it until it works. Sure. And you started that, but then you were kind of open to like, wait, this looks good. This is right here. This is in front of me. And, this could also work. Let me try this. It doesn't, put that on hold. So if there's someone hope I didn't answer the question already, but if, for someone who's struggling with this exact problem, that they're already, either they're struggling to get that job or they have that job and they just don't feel good about it, doesn't feel like it's a good fit, what would you advise them? Or do you have anything based on your experience that you would want to share with them? Or what would you want someone else to tell you when you were at that very point?
I'd say first, do not quit your 9 to 5. That is not the idea to risk your family and your own personal life by, diving into entrepreneurship with no base. My idea would be to start doing something you're very passionate about and have some expertise in while you have your 9 to 5 job as your fallback plan. So, before or after work, you're investing 4, 5, 8 hours, whatever you can fit in a day into your new venture. And eventually, hopefully you can grow that to enable your same lifestyle that your 9 to 5 is giving you. And then it's the perfect time to go all in and, invest your 10 to 15 hours a day that you're, crushing it at your new startup. So yeah, it all starts with something you're passionate about, because you will not want to invest the time if the passion's not there. I see people every day that, are unhappy after work or don't want to put the time in to go to work. You need the passion to be able to get out of bed in the morning. So whatever that is, if you're not an expert in it, then become an expert. I'm a lifelong learner. I love, reading, mainly it's on Audible, listening to books right now.
All right. We agree on something.
Yeah, love it. Podcasts, getting very into podcasts, TED Talks. There's so many ways to learn and find out new exciting areas for the future. So tap into that passion and get going. And then when you have turned a corner and you can, hire someone, get more help, and you're reaching a level of success that can pay for your life, then quit your 9 to 5 and go crush it.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. I mean, and what you just said, I believe in so much. I mean, you're not so familiar with my background. We don't have a chance to talk about it. The listeners of this podcast are a little bit more familiar, but just briefly, I didn't have the traditional college background. My degree is in Talmudic law, which has very little practical application in the world of business. Everything that I know in the world of business is really from what you just said. It's from YouTube, Google, TED Talk. I call Google my rabbi because
it's so easy to teach yourself these days. It's free.
It's free. There's absolutely nothing.
Literally.
There's nothing that you can't get a deep level of understanding for free online. I think there's almost no exceptions. There might come a point, like sales, for example. We got a new sales course. We'll talk about that. Where eventually there's a limit what you can get, but sometimes you just want it. Honestly, I've paid for some of these things too, but there's so much you could get for free. I would never. I mean, I'm Jewish. You can understand this. I'm not paying for a course for free, right? And there's so much good, awesome, valuable content.
There is. I'm in a couple online sales and marketing groups on Facebook, and the amount of free content these people share is unbelievable. I mean, they're sharing, to your point about these sales decks and stuff, and they're sharing ones that they would sell elsewhere, but in the group they're free. So yeah, just so much content. You don't have time to even consume it.
Yeah, which is the other startup that I mentioned that we're working on, which can help with all that. Of really, because there's also a big overload. On the one hand, if you need to run, Facebook ads to promote your sellyourmac.com, so you can hire somebody and pay them a monthly fee, or you can kind of learn how to do it yourself. And you won't be as good as that person. You're going to make mistakes, and probably costly mistakes. But at the end of the day, you will have that skill that firstly you might decide that that's all you want to do. But at the very least, you learned yourself, you taught yourself something new, and it's something that you can do yourself, and all that money is going into you instead of going to someone else. And eventually, if you can't do it, you could always hire somebody else. So that is so true. That that there is no shortage of information that you can consume, and like you said, don't fight your passion. Sometimes I'll give you one incident, and this is going late. We're gonna have to wrap up in a couple minutes, but I've my job now as a nursing home administrator, I have to interview people, and probably around a year ago, I interviewed someone for a nursing position. She was probably in her mid-40s, and I don't know who she is, and if she's listening, thank you. But she was led a unhappy career in finance, like 15 or 20 years, because she went. That's why when you said finance, I perked up.
Yeah.
Because that's what her degree was in, and she made some sort of comment during the interview. It was like, I wish I would have gone straight into nursing school after high school. I could have been an experienced nurse now. Would have been an RN, a registered nurse, higher level of a nurse. I would have been making more money. I could have been, managing nursing homes or hospital units, and I could have grown so much further, and it would have been so much further in my career. Instead, her marriage fell apart, and financially she wasn't doing too well, and she finally just was able to get herself through nursing school, but 20 years behind. So I
It's
could
never too late.
Yes, it's never too
People
late.
assume they're 40 years old or 50 years old and they're stuck in their job. Well, if you're going to spend their 20 years of your life working, who cares if you switch? At least you'll have another happy 20 years.
Exactly. But my point to her was, congratulations. You've finally made the transition.
Made the shift.
You're finally doing it. But then I asked her, I don't know if you're supposed to ask this on an interview, but I did, just like you were in your basement, right? But I asked her, I said, why in the world didn't you go straight to nursing school? If that's really what you wanted, and you always wanted, she knew she wanted that, why didn't you do that? And her response pained me tremendously. It still does. And she explained how her father is a banker, and her mother is, and her uncle, and everyone in her family is
a lot
in
of family expectations.
Exactly. Everyone, how could you not go? It wasn't a family business, but it was a family profession. This is what we do. This is how we earn your degree. And if you can't, then you must have some sort of blemish or something, that you can't be successful the way we expect you to be. And it took all that pain and time and learning for her to get there. So you were able to.
Certain families or cultures that place those expectations on the kids. So they're not allowed to go be an entrepreneur. You can be very unsuccessful when you start to be an entrepreneur, and most people fail. So for that reason, people do push into these,
the safety,
higher professional careers that are, prestigious sounding.
Yeah, which is kind of where I am right now. And every time I tell my family about all my podcasts and online sales and apps and all the stuff that I'm trying to get off the ground, they're all like, just buckle up. You have a job. It's paying your bills. Stop complaining. And I refuse to settle. If I can make them kind of all work at the same time, or kind of pivot in a way that works for me, that's great. But I'm not going to sit in something that's not a perfect fit forever. But like you say, everyone else with the best of intentions is concerned. Every time I say new idea, you're not quitting your job, right? Like, not yet.
Not yet.
If there's one book that you would recommend for our listeners that I know you said that you read on Audible, that you think can really help them either identify their passion or go after their passion, or that's been really, really beneficial for you, if there's just one book that you would really highly recommend, is there one book that you would really highly recommend for our listeners today?
I thought you might ask me that, and I was thinking a lot about it, and given everyone in this podcast could have different situations and stuff like that. The one book that jumped to mind is called Jumpstart Your Brain by Doug Hall. This guy is a really interesting guy. He's ex-Procter & Gamble, the largest consumer product company, which is actually headquartered here in Cincinnati. And he decided every 6 months that he would leave if he wasn't learning something new.
Wow, I love that.
The fastest ever patent creator at P&G. So he was putting out so many patents and learning a lot. And then finally, when he wasn't, he decided he wanted to leave and go help other small businesses. So he created this place called Eureka Ranch, which is here in town, and he'll bring in small businesses and coach them on how to improve and grow their companies. And he gives so many of these insights in this book. Jumpstart Your Business, Jumpstart Your Brain.
Wow.
So it's like you went through a $10,000 course just by reading this book.
Wow. Do you know him personally because he's in town?
I've never met him. I really want to. I know a couple of mutual people, so I'll hopefully get invited soon.
All right. Maybe we'll try when we post this. We'll tag him. And
unbelievably smart, mad scientist. Really cool.
Awesome. All right. We're going to get him on the podcast eventually.
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll do, maybe you'll be on there too. You'll introduce me because you can be best buddies with him. But it sounds like an awesome book. I have not read it. I was scared to hear the 4-Hour Work Week again or something like that. Which I'm like, no, you can't do that. It's a great book. I know you.
Those are all good books. Yeah. Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss is awesome, but I'm sure everyone mentions that. So
yes, not Tools of Titans yet. Have you gone through it's huge.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
I have not. I have actually not gone through that yet.
So many good ideas just about life. I mean, if you pick that one or two things that could help you out, I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, so that's even in the 4-hour work week, there's so many resources there. Like sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Have you actually successfully used any of those resources? Because you're kind of in this type of business of selling physical products, and he has a lot of resources for that. Have you found any of that to be beneficial, or you haven't used it?
It's really tough to implement all these things you learn in the books. A lot of it's just kind of, mind share and, getting you mentally prepared to do these things. I'd have to go back and really look and see if I've used these resources. Nothing jumps out on top of mind that I could share right now. But I think mentally it has helped a lot.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very, very much, Brian, for your time today and for all the pearls of wisdom that you've shared so generously. And as we mentioned, your
I
website.
hope I spark someone's passion so they can go out and create a new business and then eventually get rid of their 9-to-5.
Exactly. And again, just to be clear, no one has to get rid of their 9-to-5. For some people,
Sure.
like I know
You could just love it.
For some people, I know people who are extremely skilled at something very, very niche down and very particular that there's a high demand for, or even if something standard, some people love being a receptionist and that really is their passion. And they love the interaction with people walking in the front door, and they love organizing calendar appointments and all the stuff that I personally despise. But for some people, like I've learned to accept that it's okay to be happy with that if that's their choice and if that's a natural expression of who they are. So love your 9-to-5. Like some guests have to explain, it's not necessarily a 9-to-5, but it's just what you do to spend your time, regardless if you're salaried or regardless if you decide to start your own business or a combination of the two, or whatever it is. But the main thing is, don't sell yourself short. Now, if people want to see or about your business, so of course they can go to your website, sellyourmac.com. Is there anywhere else?
Go to my website. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Brian Burke. I went to Tulane University, and currently it's a picture of me wearing a bow tie. So
Okay, awesome. I've seen that picture. I know that there's another Brian Burke which comes up when you search. That's why you put into
He's
Google.
An imposter.
Exactly. Except that he's double your age. But
I'm sure as soon as this launches, if you type in Brian Burke podcast, love your 9-to-5, I should probably pop up right there.
Absolutely.
Find me in the show notes.
Exactly. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And really, I look forward to putting this episode together and sending it out.
No, I'm glad I could share. Thanks for everyone to listen.